Right. Hello, everyone, and welcome to the MovingWorlds Google Hangout on how volunteering can help people find, identify, and earn their dream job. We've got some great research. We're really excited to share it with you. In not too much time here, we're going to start sharing a PowerPoint presentation with you. Promise it'll be short. There's a Q&A panel on the side. Maybe that side. You can fire away with questions right there. And we really look forward to sharing this with you. So hang on there. As happens with Hangouts, it takes a little bit of time for everybody to just kind of jump on board here. So I promise we'll be starting in just about a minute more time. All right, so for those just tuning in, we're waiting for just a few more people to join. We've got a pretty short, I don't even want to call it a presentation, but it's kind of a presentation. We got a pretty short one coming at you, and then we're gonna fire it up and have the opportunity to ask questions. So hang in there. We're gonna get rolling on this in just another, I don't know, maybe 30 seconds or so. All right. So I hope at this time, those of you tuning in, you can see a nice little visual here. It says MovingWorlds on the top, and then volunteering in your dream career, a report from MovingWorlds.org. And we're about to just kind of dive in this. I'm going to be toggling back and forth a little bit to the question panel. So I'm going to be jumping kind of back and forth between the question panel, between the presentation. If you ever have questions, you let me know. If things don't make sense, feel free to ask a question. And what we're really excited to do is just kind of share a lot of this information about how volunteering your skills actually has a place in helping you identifying and landing your dream job. So really, I think without further ado, we're gonna dive into this. Like I said, I promise to keep this pretty short, and then we'll have plenty of time for great questions. So just a quick bit about us. We're an organization, a social enterprise that helps people volunteer their skills around the world. So we're really interested when people are looking at volunteering as a way to accelerate their career. And this idea more fell onto our laps than us creating it, where people started telling us that they were really looking for international experiences as a way to develop their skills. And what we were wondering is if that was worth their time. Were the recruiters, did hiring managers, did career advisors care if people had volunteer experience or not? And so we really set out. We've had hundreds of conversations, and then we deeply surveyed hundreds more to really bring you some of this research. And it's not just going to explain, why volunteering might help you find and land your dream job, but we actually hope to get into some nice kind of little nitty-gritty tidbits that will actually help you. So in the next 10 minutes or so, you'll walk out of here with some good tips about how volunteering can help you, or maybe some of your clients use the power of skills-based experiences to develop their career a little bit more. So, to step into a little bit more about why this was really so important to us and why we put so much time and heart and energy into this is because the most valuable thing that people have is their time, their brain, and their heart. And if we can show people that giving some of those things will actually come back to benefit them, we hope that would inspire and empower even more people to engage in the power of volunteering. We wrote an article on Forbes not that long ago that talked about the 5 surprising benefits of volunteering. Really interesting stuff about, volunteering helps people feel actually like they have more time. It helps them feel more loved. And actually it's proven to improve health, lower the risk of things like heart disease. But what we really wanted to see is, in addition to those things, could it also help people if they really worked on more skills-related projects, which is very important because the biggest barrier to global progress is a lack of access to skills. And if we could encourage more people to go use their skills in environments at home and abroad, we thought that'd be pretty interesting to share. So without further ado, if you're seeing this webcast, it's probably because you've seen this little infographic. We're all the way zoomed out on it here, so it's a little hard to see, but really what this infographic does is walks through a few main sections. At the top, it's about finding your calling. In the middle, it's about helping you stand out. Then we get into a get hired section, and then we try and show some data about why volunteering actually helps with all of these things. So I'm gonna fly through it right now, and to get started, I'm just gonna do a quick toggle back to our Google Hangout to see if anybody's interrupting me or if we have any questions, and it looks like we're still at a good spot. So finding your calling. How does volunteer experience help you find your calling? Well, to really help with this, we went to a lot of career consultants, a lot of career coaches, career advisors, inside of companies, outside of companies, to better understand the role of volunteering. What we found is that about 94% of the professionals in this industry said that volunteering helps bring clarity to the job search. And as we dove into that, what that really means is if people aren't sure if maybe they want to go work at a big company or at a small company, they can actually go volunteer in a small organization or a big organization first. They can understand if that organization size is interesting. But also related to skills, it helps people answer questions like, do I want to work on a team or do I want to work by myself? And so what we found is that volunteering is a really great way to test the assumptions about what your dream career actually is. So Brad Waters, who's a career life coach and consultant, said that if you're thinking of making a career change years down the road, consider volunteering now to lay a foundation for the future. It helps you identify your real strengths, build a bigger network, and explore what truly motivates you. You'll look back and be glad you had the foresight to plan early. And I think that quote from Brad really sums up the things that we were learning. Now, the other really interesting point was that 97% of career advisors thought that people could actually accelerate their careers through volunteering. That was a really high number. We weren't expecting that. So we followed up with a bunch to maybe ask why and how does that help people accelerate their career. And what we found is that it gives people more experiences. As an example, take a designer or an engineer, somebody who's so used to being an individual contributor. By the time they're at a point of seniority to qualify for management, they may not have ever had any leadership experience. Maybe they've never managed an event or managed other people or delivered results through other people. And what career advisors felt was if you could step into those positions as a volunteer, then by the time it was ready for your own promotion, you can actually prove that you've been there, done that, and in turn, you can be accelerated. So we also heard from career advisors that most of them, so 76%, thought that the volunteer experience could help candidates stand out a little bit more on their resume and help them stand out and get their preferred job. Now, as we dove into that more, career advisors were a little skeptical that a volunteer section on your resume would really help you automatically get the job. But it would help you show that your skills were very applicable to more settings and that you had a bigger network, which is oftentimes what connects you to jobs. So all in all, the response from career advisors was overwhelming. Whether you're working or whether you're not working, whether you think about moving jobs in 1 month or in 3 years or in 5 years or in 10 years, volunteering on the side is a really, really valuable way to help you build a network, build your skills, and actually focus in on what your dream job really, really is. So after we got all this great data from career advisors, we wanted to learn from recruiters who are really the pinch point, if you will, of helping your resume get noticed if you're applying at a company, or for that matter, not get noticed. So we then talked to a bunch of recruiters, we surveyed even more of them to better find out, does volunteer experience matter if it's on your resume? Now, if you think about this, what we actually started talking about with recruiters first, both in companies and outside of companies, was how much time do they spend looking at resumes? Now, some of you have probably researched this and you know it, but the answer is usually between 30 and 60 seconds per resume. Well, in that fast of a skim, your volunteer experience barely has time to be read, especially if it's at the bottom. Because what recruiters are first and foremost looking for is an alignment of skills and relevant industry experience. And so additional stuff like volunteer experience or interests or awards or publications, that's good. But oftentimes it sounded like recruiters really didn't get there. If they did, it was just a quick kind of mental checklist item, but it's not a core part of their review, especially of resumes and cover letters. So what we then really try to do is talk a little bit more with recruiters to understand, well, if you don't really look for it, does it really add value? And as you can see from the statistics, only 61% of the recruiters that we spoke with specifically highlighted that international skills-based volunteering experience helps you stand out. But there's some big caveats there. It has to be listed in the right way, and it has to be relevant to the position that you're looking for. And only 54% of recruiters said that applicants with international skills-based experience would be more likely to get the job. I think what that means too is really at the kind of recruiting level, when you're rapid screening candidates, it's not immediately obvious whether volunteer experience is really a good thing. In fact, one recruiter told us that too much volunteer experience is actually a bad thing. It says, while you're probably a really wonderful person, it sounds like you're really not bringing your whole self to work, and really you're more interested on your nonprofit activities. And if you're applying for a for-profit company, maybe you should really be looking to go get a job at a nonprofit. And so it was really interesting, and what we heard, and I think Katie Cross's quote really helped explain it the best, that sometimes written in the right way can make your resume pop. And so as Katie said, that if you have completed meaningful projects, as in they're skill-based and there's real results that you can attribute to your work, that if you have completed meaningful projects, include it as real work experience in your resume, not in a volunteer or an interest section, but in your real work experience, and call it a pro bono consultant or experteering, and articulate the situation, task, action, and result of your project. And what that does, if it's part of your work experience, it says, maybe I'm, to build on an example of earlier, maybe I've been a UX designer for 3 years. I really want to step into a role with more creative authority, maybe even start managing a team. And so if part of your work experience, you've got this big block of 3 years of design experience, but if your next block still in the work experience is managing an entire creative team to develop a brand for a new nonprofit or a new startup, and you've shown that you can really deliver results through others, if you can articulate, it helps build your own resume story about why you deserve a position, and for that matter, why you will stand out. So recruiters were a really interesting group to get to know, because they don't really look for volunteer experience. So the onus is on you to make sure you're communicating it the right way. And in our blog post, we've got more tips to really dive into that. But to kind of govern all those comments, Katie Cross's advice here is really top notch. So then we said, okay, provided it's on your resume, provided you make it through and you're now in the hiring process. So you're sitting across the table and you're interviewing. Does volunteer experience help you get hired? And to start, we then went to hundreds of managers to say, do you look for people with volunteer experience? What do you look for on a resume? What kind of questions do you ask of people? And do some of these assumptions around volunteering helping people stand out, do they really pop or not? What we learned is that not for everybody, but for a majority. So we saw that in general, properly articulated volunteer experience, especially if you could talk about it in an interview setting, just made you a more interesting candidate. So as a result, 63% of managers say that they ask about volunteer experience during interviews. Now there's an important caveat here, which is, and we weren't sure what the numbers were, but some managers were specifically looking for it, and they would ask those types of questions like, what do you do outside of your job? What are your passions? Do you volunteer? Do you give? Do you support any other causes? Now, other managers didn't specifically ask those questions, but if they saw it on a resume, they were quick to go to it. In fact, some managers even told us that they would start at that section because they were in the interview already, because they had the skills. Managers were more interested in screening to see if the person was actually interesting and a good team member. And some of those other things like volunteer experience are really what help you pop in that setting. So they make you more interesting. Now, Another big subset of managers said that they strongly value volunteer experience. And specifically, that was skills-based experience. And the reason why is because of two things. As Daniela says in the quote featured here on the side, it proves to me that the candidate has more drive. But what we also saw was that managers felt that people with volunteer experience compared to peers that didn't just had more skills. And I think Harry Weiner's quote here, who co-founded and works at OnRamps, an executive recruiting company, said that, look, when you interview, focus on the transferable skills, awareness, and networks gained rather than the awesomeness factor. And really what he's saying there is managers are asking about these questions in part to learn about your passion and your interests, but what they're also trying to see and learn is, have you used your skills in more unique ways, and has that helped make you a more interesting candidate? Now, the bottom result on this page was really interesting, is that 85% of managers claim that people with international skills-based volunteer experience on their resume have a better chance of joining their team. Over a quarter of those surveyed strongly agreed with that statement. And we've learned that that's probably because of a couple reasons. One is it's a really easy experience to talk about, right? What managers are always looking for is a big diversity of skills and of applications of those skills. And if you've only been in one or two jobs, you only have so much experience. So especially for people earlier in their career journey, being able to have this whole other experience. Oh, and apparently our building is having a fire alarm. And the fire alarm is over, so I'm really sorry. There was a terrible noise there for a second, and I hope everybody still has their ears on. It looks like it's not repeating, so I'm going to keep going. So what we're really hearing from managers is having volunteer experience really shows, especially in a new and unique setting, that it's almost like you worked on a really high-value project at work, and that's the kind of thing that goes on your resume and that you talk about in an interview. So these types of experiences make you a better interview because they bring more of your soul and your passion and your interest and your skills to work. So at the end of the day, managers felt that people with volunteer experience just had more potential to deliver quality work, to assimilate into their team, and they also had longer term leadership potential. And that was really exciting to hear from managers, especially the number that specifically like to talk about it during the interview stage. So we said, okay, let's step all the way back. Like, these are some pretty impressive numbers in terms of the role that volunteering can have on people's experience, and yet it's something that a lot of people are doing. In fact, the majority of people are not volunteering their skills, even though its impact on a career search seemed to be so compelling. So why is volunteering so important? And the last section of our infographic really dives into that. And both recruiters, managers, and career advisors agree that more than anything, it helps people learn through experience. It helps build a better network. It helps them develop very specific skills, the type of skills like communication or collaboration or resourcefulness or innovation, things that you just won't learn at your 9-to-5 job, or for some of you, your 8-to-8 job, depending where you work. I used to work in accounting, so I'm very familiar with the longer hours that some industries can work. And even then, the accounting firm that I was at really encouraged volunteer experience because they knew that it helped people create more potential in the long term. And what we really saw is that most managers felt that people were more likely not just to get on their team, but to grow through it. It's because really skills-based volunteer experience has just given you more experience. And nothing fosters learning better than experience. So there's a couple quotes here from people that contributed. So Anthony is an author, and he shared that volunteering can give you access to the inner circle of a new career field without all the formal education and credentials. It's the best way to break in a new field through the side door. And what's interesting is I don't think that's just the connections that you make, but it's also the industry insight that you've learned by actually working in there before. And knowing that you've had prior experience in that field means that you can get into it. And I already quoted Harry on an earlier slide, but he specifically highlighted that international experience of any kind, personal or professional, and I'll add on to that to say volunteering experience of any kind, overseas or domestic, as long as it's skills-based, leads to greater life experience, which then leads to a greater awareness of needs And in Harry's experience, he says that candidates who have these things have a greater ability to innovate. And that means they have a greater ability to be successful. And another quote from Julian Lawrence said that in every situation, from financial to creative positions, he looks at a candidate's volunteer history because it's a good indication of their passion, leadership, and problem-solving abilities. And I think that's what's really so fascinating in all this research, is that people are learning that it helps people build networks, it helps grow skills, it helps people identify their career calling. It proves to managers that they can be more innovative and higher performing individuals and team members. And that's why people along the entire career journey are really looking for it. So, that's the short presentation here about how volunteering really has a place in helping you develop and find your dream career. And if you have more questions, Cami, who is our incredible, awesome, wonderful social impact fellow, really spearheaded all of this research. And if you have questions, if you want to contribute, if you're interested in the research project that we do to really follow up on what we've learned here, then please give Cami an email at movingworlds.org, or you can connect with us on Twitter or Facebook on our website at movingworlds.org, and we are more than happy to share more research. So at this time, I'm gonna stop sharing the presentation. That means you'll probably see my screen coming back on board here, really, I'll kind of wrap this up. We look forward to any questions that you might have, any comments. Please do connect with us, and we hope that you've been able and can use some of this research to help both you identify and get your dream job, and maybe support some others who are going through that same journey. So thank you so much for tuning in, and if you're interested, please check out the blog post on the topic, subscribe to email newsletter updates just specifically for this topic. And stay tuned, and we look forward to sharing more and more about this really exciting research.